Welcome to my July wrap-up. In this video, I will tell you all about the books that I've hauled in the month of July, that I've read in the month of July, and that I will unhaul now after the end of the month. So let's start with the books that I've hauled. The first book is this chunky one. It is super heavy. And this is a book about biochemistry and molecular biology, so genetics. And if you might have seen some of my videos in the month of July, I'm doing a biology course right now from the MIT. It is called Introduction to Biology, The Secret of Life. And this course is about biochemistry and molecular biology. And because this whole course is in English, I thought I add a book in German to these topics so that I can read about it, getting a little bit more in depth and learn a lot about these topics because it is super interesting to me and I really enjoy taking this course. So, yay for studying! And a book that is not for studying is Carl's Doomsday Scenario by Matt Dinniman. This is the second book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. And after this series got picked up by a traditional publisher, I think last year, I saw it everywhere on YouTube. Everybody read this book, and I didn't want to miss out on the series. So I've read book one, Dungeon Crawler Carl, in July. We'll get to that later. But I want to continue now in August. So I bought book two to do that. And I picked up one of my pre-orders, Shield of Sparrows by Daphne Perry with sprayed edges. I can't wait to read this book, but I will probably don't get to it in August, but maybe in September and maybe as a buddy read. We will see. I can't tell you much about the book because I don't know anything. I just saw people reading it on social media and they loved the book. And that was enough for me to buy it. But I wasn't influenced to buy this book, at least not by social media. The Mission by Tim Weiner, or Weiner? I don't know how you pronounce it in English, but this is a nonfiction book about the history of the CIA, especially in the 21st century. And I saw this book unexpectedly on NetGalley when I surfed through the new books there. And then I remembered I have a book about the FBI on my TBR by Tim Weiner. I have a book about the CIA on my TBR written by Tim Weiner. So, what better way to get these books off my TBR than buying the third book by the author and film a whole video about the three books? Yeah, that's what I did. I got a review copy of this book via NetGalley, but I also want it on my shelf, so I bought a copy and can't wait to get to this book. But currently, I'm still reading the FBI book with a friend. Then we will read the CIA book, and after that, we can read The Mission. So it will take us some time. There is a lot of input, a lot of information, and we take our time reading these books. And because I talked a lot with this friend about reading these kind of nonfiction books, we bought two more of them. This is the German version of Soldier Spy by Tom Marcus, a book about an MI5 agent that goes undercover and fights against the terrorism. And then we have a whole chunky book about the MI5 itself. It is written by Christopher Andrew, and maybe these two books count as research because one of the characters, the friend Yassi and I are writing about, is an MI5 agent. So it is really interesting to us to get an insight on this topic. I already told you before that we are writing this story. We have currently written over 1,500 pages, which is insane. And we have still so much plot that we want to write that in the end we probably have enough material to cut this down into 10 books. I don't know. It is super crazy, but we still enjoy writing it, and that is the most important part. We have two friends of us now reading the story, and they are both enjoying it so far. So, thanks to our two alpha readers. And we can't give you more to read, but for now, back to the books that I've hauled, because I have one more book here that was a complete spontaneous buy when I was in the bookshop. It is Rumored. It is written by Kelly and Christina Mancaroso, and this is one of the rare times that I've bought a thriller because this book sounded really intriguing to me, and I will read the synopsis on the back for you so you can understand why. I'm a global sensation adored by millions, and my star only seems to keep rising. My fans say I speak directly to them through my music, that I know who they are. How else could I write such visceral personal lyrics? They love me, and I love them right back. Then, at the height of my fame, I was arrested on suspicion of murder. The world thinks they know who I am, but they have no idea. And yeah, rockstar story meets thriller. Say less, I'm in, I'm intrigued, I want to read this book. And with that, we have completed my hauls of the month July. 7 books in total, and I haven't read any of them so far, but this will change now in August. And that means we can come now to the books that I finished reading in July. And we can see if this stack here on this side is taller than this side, because that is always the goal. Keep that in mind, because we will get to that at the end of my finished books. The first book that I've read, or better, listened to, was Fallen Angels, Book 3. It is called Envy. It is a book written by J.R. Ward, and the Fallen Angels series is part of the Black Dagger Brotherhood universe, which is why I'm doing a reread of the whole Fallen Angels series. And this time in the right order with the Black Dagger Brotherhood series. So, Envy was the book that I was supposed to read after the last Black Dagger book. And I'm getting now back to the Black Dagger Brotherhood after I finished Envy and read the next book there, again with Marin, my buddy read partner, because, as always, I love buddy reads and love to discuss my books. So, this is what we did with Envy and what we will do with Lover Reborn now in August. Envy was okay so far. I didn't love the series the first time. I didn't hate it. It was okay to me then, and it is okay to me now. I love the dry and sarcastic humor, but I'm not the biggest fan of insta love, which is always the case in these books. And as we are speaking about love, I've read The Favorites by Lane Fargo in the month of July, and I love this book. It is one of my favorite books of 2025, and it was one of my most anticipated reads of 2025. So I'm really happy with this result, that I loved the book. This is not a typical romance, it is more literary fiction, and that is probably why I loved the book so much. The relationship between the main characters is super toxic. Be aware of that. And I criticized this when I read Magnolia Parks, but this was definitely the better fitting version for me personally. And hopefully, Lane Fargo will write more literary fiction books. I know she wrote at least one thriller before The Favorites, and maybe I will give the thriller a chance, we will see. But so far, this is the first book I can put on this side of the table. And as I already teased, I can also put Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Diniban, the first book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, on this side of the table. This is a lit RPG story. So, our main character is part of a video game scenario and needs to stay alive in this dungeon. There is a whole world around this dungeon that we just get glimpses of because the main story takes place in the dungeon, and it was super entertaining. I loved it. I inhaled the book, and as I said, I can't wait to read book 2 in August. And after I've read The Codebreaker in June, I read now in July Homo Ex Machina. This is a German nonfiction book about transhumanism. So, the goal for the humans to reach an almost immortal life, so not only live 20 years longer than now, but more 200, 500 years. A very controversial topic, and I'm still not sure what to think about it, but I'm glad that I read the book, that I've learned about this whole topic and the research that is done in this part, because what I've read in Codebreaker is part of that, which was super intriguing. And the whole Codebreaker and Homo Ex Machina reads are the reason why I'm now doing my biology course. So you see, I'm doing a real deep dive here in this topic and get a little bit hyper focused on that. But that's okay as long as I enjoy it. And I'm an adult, I can do whatever I want in my free time, even taking some courses online and learn about things that are more a niche interest. But not a niche interest was Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid, the newest book of her. It is about the space program by the NASA, and we get the POV of a woman on that participates very early in this program, and she needs to hide certain parts of herself to stay in this program because they are not very queer friendly. Let me say that. I'm still not sure if I liked how the story was told, but in the end, I cried a lot. It was very emotional, and I love emotional stories. So even if I'm not sure about some decisions Taylor Jenkins Reid made here, I still enjoyed the book. And I also enjoyed The Fall of the President by Mark Ellsberg, one of the books from my 25 for 2025 lists, and a super interesting political thriller. This is not what I normally read, but I've really enjoyed this author before, and he didn't disappoint me. As I said, it was super political because it was about an ex-president of the USA that gets arrested now in Greece by the ICC, the International Criminal Court. And this book wasn't full of action, but for me it was super intriguing how all these countries, all these people are being part of this process, how everything is handled here and influences the world. And I wouldn't mind if Mark Ellsberg at some point publishes a second book with this story and continues the plot. But we had the important parts here, and I can't wait to read more by this author. And I picked up another book from my 25 for 2025 list, Destination Anywhere by Sarah Barnard, which was surprisingly good. I really enjoyed this book. It is a YA finding yourself road trip book through Canada. And as I said, I really loved this book. I was surprised by it because YA isn't what I typically read, at least not anymore. But I really, really can recommend Destination Anywhere. And I can recommend the last two books that I've read, The Naturals, Book 3 and Book 4. We have All In and Bad Blood. These are YA thrillers, and I really, really love this series. It is full of action, full of drama, full of emotions. The plots are super intriguing, and I love that these teenagers have special talents to work on these serial killer cases. So one of them can detect lies, one of them can read emotions, two of them are really good profilers, and they are a really good team. So I'm a little bit sad that I finished the series now, but I have some more books by Jennifer Lynn Barnes on my TBR, so I can read more of the Inheritance Games universe in the future. But for now, that's it. And you can see now this deck is a little bit taller than the whole pile. So I've reached my goal, which is good, but it was very close now in July. I hope it gets better in August. June was the best month in this so far. And now I need to decide if I want to keep all these books or if I want to unhaul some of them. And I can say I enjoyed them all really, really much, but I will unhaul one of them, and that is Destination Anywhere. As I said, I loved the book. I was positively surprised by it, but I can't see myself reaching for it again. So I will bring this book to a little free library and hope that this finds a new home and gets enjoyed by someone else. And with that, we are now at the end of my wrap up. Please tell me in the comments what you have read in July. Like the video if you wanna, follow my channel, and I will see you next time. Bye!